Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you inside a place that most of us know too well. A corporate world where titles, suits, and shiny shoes often determine how we treat others. It was a normal Tuesday morning at Harper Technologies, one of the city's most successful software companies. The boardroom on the 15th floor gleamed with polished glass, blue lights, and people dressed in their finest suits. The CEO, Ms. Victoria Lane, a woman of power and precision, was preparing for an important investor meeting. She was known for her sharp mind, her fierce confidence, and, unfortunately, her lack of compassion for those she considered beneath her. As she rehearsed her speech, she noticed a janitor quietly mopping the corner of the room. His name was Ethan Cole, a man in his mid-30s, wearing a faded uniform and rubber gloves. His posture was humble, his expression calm, and his presence almost invisible to the executives who passed him daily. But on that day, his invisible existence was shattered. Victoria turned toward him sharply. "Excuse me," she snapped, her voice echoing through the glass room. "Can't you see we're preparing for a high-level meeting here? This is not the time for you to be mopping floors." The board members went silent. Ethan stopped mid-motion, his mop dripping water onto the pristine floor. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he replied softly. "I was told to finish cleaning before the investors arrive." Victoria's eyes narrowed. "Do you think the investors care about your excuses? You're just a janitor. Leave immediately. You're disrupting important work." A few people in the room shifted uncomfortably. But no one spoke. It was easier to stay silent than to challenge the CEO. Ethan nodded quietly, his dignity wrapped in silence. He left the room without a word, but not before locking eyes with a young intern, Laura, who looked at him with sympathy. Something about Ethan's calmness, even in humiliation, stayed with her. Victoria continued her rehearsal, confident that she had restored order. She didn't know, not yet, that the man she had just humiliated was not just a janitor. Ethan was something far greater than anyone could imagine. Ethan Cole wasn't born into privilege. He was once a top engineering student at a prestigious university. But life has a way of turning genius into silence when fate strikes hard. Years ago, Ethan's wife fell gravely ill, and the cost of her treatment drained his savings. He dropped out of his PhD program to care for her, working odd jobs to afford her medication. When she passed away, Ethan lost more than love, he lost purpose. He took the janitorial job at Harper Technologies not because he lacked skill, but because he needed a quiet place to rebuild his life. The company's late-night silence allowed him to think, to dream, to write algorithms on scraps of paper between his cleaning rounds. Unknown to everyone, Ethan had been studying the company's systems, not to spy, but because he noticed something alarming. Harper Technologies' data security infrastructure was deeply flawed. A breach could expose millions of users' private information. He had tried to send an anonymous suggestion to the IT department once, but it was ignored. Probably some prank, they had said. Who would take advice from a janitor, after all? Yet Ethan persisted. He stayed late every night, developing a patch that could prevent a major cyberattack. He wasn't looking for recognition. He just couldn't watch something so important crumble when he knew how to fix it. Meanwhile, in her corner office, Victoria Lane was celebrating a record quarter. The company had just secured a deal worth millions. She believed she had built an empire that couldn't fall. But she didn't realize that her empire was already shaking at its foundations. One Friday afternoon, chaos struck. The company's network went dark. Files vanished, servers crashed, and screens across the building displayed a single message. System breach detected. All data at risk. Panic filled the air. IT specialists rushed in, typing furiously, but nothing worked. Investors demanded answers. Employees whispered in fear. For the first time, Victoria Lane, the woman who always had control, felt powerless. The next morning, the company called an emergency meeting. Every department head was there: IT, finance, operations. Victoria stood at the head of the table, her voice tight with stress. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, "we are under cyberattack. If we don't recover the data in 12 hours, we'll lose everything: clients, reputation, maybe even our future. I need solutions, now." But no one had an answer. The best engineers couldn't stop the breach. The backup servers were infected. The entire network was compromised. And then, quietly, from the back of the room, came a voice. "Ma'am, I think I can help." Heads turned. It was Ethan, the janitor. Victoria frowned. "You, help. This is not a cleaning issue, Mr. Cole. We're talking about cybersecurity." Ethan stepped forward. "I know, ma'am, but I've been studying your systems for a while. I think I know where the breach started, and how to fix it." A few executives chuckled under their breath. Victoria's patience thinned. "Mr. Cole, this is not the time for jokes. We're dealing with millions of dollars at stake." But before she could dismiss him again, Laura, the intern who had watched the earlier humiliation, spoke up. "Ma'am, please, I've seen him working on code during his breaks. Maybe we should just let him try." Victoria hesitated. The room was silent. With nothing left to lose, she sighed. "Fine, you have 10 minutes, Mr. Cole. Prove you can do what my entire IT team couldn't." Ethan nodded. He walked calmly to the main terminal. As he typed, lines of complex code filled the screen. The IT staff gathered around, stunned by his precision. He identified the malware, traced the intrusion point, and began implementing his custom encryption patch. Minutes passed like hours. The tension was unbearable. Then suddenly, the system flashed green. Security restored. Threat neutralized. The room erupted in disbelief. The data was safe. The servers were back online. The company was saved. Victoria stood frozen, her pride clashing with shock. She looked at Ethan, the man she had publicly humiliated, now standing as the hero of Harper Technologies. "How did you?" she whispered. Ethan smiled faintly. "Sometimes, ma'am, intelligence doesn't wear a suit. Sometimes it wears a uniform and carries a mopin." The days that followed, Ethan's story spread across the company like wildfire. Employees whispered in admiration. Executives apologized. The CEO called an emergency board meeting, this time, with Ethan sitting at the table, not cleaning around it. Victoria faced him with humility. "Mr. Cole, I owe you an apology. I judged you by your job, not by your worth. You saved this company. I was wrong." Ethan's eyes softened. "We all make mistakes, ma'am. What matters is what we learn from them." She offered him a position, not as a janitor, but as head of cybersecurity development. His salary multiplied overnight. But more than the money, what mattered to Ethan was the respect he had finally earned. He accepted the offer, but before leaving his janitorial duties, he made one final request. "Ma'am, I'd like to train the janitorial staff to learn basic computer skills. Many of them are smarter than people think. They just never got a chance." Victoria smiled through tears. Approved. Months later, Harper Technologies not only became more secure but also became known as a company that valued every employee equally. Ethan's program helped dozens of workers rise from maintenance roles into IT and management positions. One afternoon, as he walked through the same hallway where he was once humiliated, Ethan heard someone call his name. It was Laura, the intern who had spoken up for him. "You changed this place," she said. "No one looks down on anyone anymore." Ethan smiled. "I didn't change the place. I just reminded them what respect looks like." As for Victoria, she became a different kind of leader, one who listened before judging, one who saw potential before appearance. During the next company event, she told the story of Ethan Cole, the janitor who saved the company, as a reminder to all. She ended with these words. "Greater than, success is not built by those who stand above others, but by those who lift others up." Every person, no matter their title, has the power to make a difference. The audience rose in applause. Ethan stood quietly among them, smiling humbly. He never sought fame, only fairness.